These are the solutions for the first try exam review. Our intention, again, with this exam is to give you a little flavor for the SAT and not have a lot of punishment on the grade. So this won't raise your grade a whole lot or lower it a whole lot. It's just designed as another assignment that needs to be completed. So I'll keep that in mind. There's some of these that will challenge you. The idea is to finish it and do your best, and you will probably maintain your grade. You retaking is what's going to change your grade if that's what you need to do. Okay, problem one. Find the vertex. You can do the negative b over 2a, or you can go on to a grapher and look for the pattern. You see all of them are integer possibilities, so that means you're going to be able to find it on the table. So there it is, 3, negative 8. So above and below you see that pattern, negative 4, negative 4. Just so my recommendation to you is if you can find it on the table, try that first and then go to the calculation. Number 2, which of the following functions opens up and has a y-intercept at 0, 4? Well, all you need to do is find the y-intercept. So the y-intercept on A is 0, 4. All the rest, B is negative 4, C is 3, D is negative 3. So you already found it just by using the y-intercept. Number 3, solve that equation. There are 2 solutions. So what I did is I just solved for x squared. You can do that if there's no x term. And then square root both sides and make sure that you take the positive and the negative when you're solving that. And number 4, the square root of negative 169 is positive 13i. It is not negative 13i. That only happens when you solve x squared equals negative 169 and then square root both sides. So make sure that you see that difference. Problem 6, quadratic linear systems, set them equal. Get them all on one side, get all your terms on one side, and then use the Polysimul 2 app or the online root finder, and you should be good. So there are the 3 values, negative 6.5 and 5, but you want to use the one that's positive. Number 6 is jumping through a few hoops. You want to start with g of 4 equals 8. That means the point 4, 8 is on this graph, meaning that when you substitute 8 in for y and 4 in for x, you can solve for a and get the value of a, and that's what you do. So a is negative 1, so it's actually y equals negative x squared plus 24. G of negative 4, that means you put in negative 4 for x and then crunch it out to get y. So 8. So this is 16 times negative 1, negative 16 plus 24 is 8. Number 7, so these are like symmetry points. So the x value of the vertex is halfway in between the negative 7 and 3. So find the halfway point, which is negative 2. We don't necessarily know the y value of the vertex, so it says which of the following could be the vertex. So anything that has an x value of negative 2 could be the vertex. Okay, 1 page down and many to go. Number 8, add like terms. So 7 plus negative 8 is negative 1, and then 3i plus 9i is 12i. Number 9, what is the maximum y value? So they're asking you to find the vertex. That's what that is. And again, you probably should just go and graph it. I think we made all of these on the exam to where you can graph them and just find the vertex. So go look, there it is, 221. So the maximum is always the y value of the vertex, or the minimum, depending. Which of the following is the sum of those two? Pretty easy. Add them down. 8x squared minus 7x minus 4. Use the discriminant to find the number of solutions to that linear quadratic system. So set them equal, and then take everything to one side. So we'll actually do this, add 4x, so that's 6x, subtract 6, that's minus 11. So the discriminant value will be times -3, -96. So I want to actually redo that. That's a terrible example. So b squared minus 4 times a, -3 times c, -11. So you need to use parentheses around all your stuff that you substituted in for. So since that's negative, there's no solution. Okay, if it's positive, that means there's two reals. There's never one imaginary. If it's 0, then it's one real solution. And that's a studying point, so maybe I should write that in. If b squared is 0, if it's greater than 0, there's two real solutions. If it's less than 0, and then there's the whole being a perfect square root or perfect square that will lead to factoring, so on and so forth. Which of the following could be one of the x-intercepts? My advice on this, and I'm not going to put it on the table, is to look at the table. These are all integer values, which means that you can see it on the table. Which of the following is the equation for the axis of symmetry? That's just the x value of the vertex. Again, put it on the table, enter it on your graphing calculator, and find the vertex. It's just the x value. 14, I to the 32nd power. You can do this on your calculator. So it's 1 plus 0i, which is 1. Or you can use your notes where you do this division. So you take the power, let me move this up so we don't get confused here, and you divide by 4. So that's 8 with a remainder of 0. So that means you're doing 8 repetitions of these 4 steps. So it's 1. So I to the first, I squared, I cubed, I to the fourth, and then I to the fifth is I. So you have 4 blocks, so you've gone through that 8 times, so you land on 1. So you just look at the remainder. So 1, I think I put this on the notes, this is like a remainder of 0.25. We'll put it over here on the right, decimal-wise, 0.5. This is a remainder of 0.75, and this is a remainder of 0. When you get those remainders, you choose the correct one. So I, 1, negative I, and 1 are the choices. Again, I, -1, negative I, and 1 are the choices. So table here, use the idea of symmetry. It's just you're used to looking at it like this. It's the same thing though. So the negative ones, and then negative 0.5 is the one that should go there. All right, 2 pages down, many to go. Page 3. Find the zeros of the function. So however you want to do this, you can factor it, you can use the polysymbol, you can look on the table. I think the table is the fastest way when your answers are integer answers. Okay, so this is asking for the x-intercept. So literally, again, you got to ask yourself over and over, what does this app do? This app finds the x-intercepts, and that's what we're trying to do with this. So 0 and 2.25 are the x-intercepts. I won't draw it, but we did a lot of these kind of problems. So it starts from the ground. There's my friend again. And then comes up and hits the ground again. So initial height is 0, reaches its maximum height, and then hits after 2.25 seconds. Which complex expression is equivalent to 10 minus 5i? So this is quite involved because you have to do the product of all of them. It ends up being c. And so The minus 4i squared, that's plus 4 because you changed the sign. So that's 10, and then 3i minus 8i. You got to do the FOIL product on it. 6 plus 3i minus 8i minus 4i squared. And don't forget I squared is negative 1. What is the sum of all the values that satisfy that? So here's the quadratic expression. So you're really doing 16, you're doing, what's the best way I can write this? So if you added, there's 1, and then you're adding the other one. What's the sum of those two fractions? Well, these drop out. So you're getting 32. You add the numerators and you keep the denominator over 4. So you're just summing those together like two fractions, splitting up and summing them. Problem 20. We can use synthetic division. Remember to make this 2, and then you have 2, negative 1, negative 13, 9, the coefficients, and then you're dropping down. Multiply, that's 4, add, multiply, that's 6, add negative 7, multiply negative 14, and add negative 5. And so this is the remainder, this is the constant, this is an x term, this is x squared, so the remainder is negative 5 when you do that division. Synthetic division is pretty easy to do. What are the solutions to this? So here's your setup. The b squared minus 4ac is 72, and that reduces to 6 times the square root of 2. This is a pretty good problem because it's forcing you to do a lot of things to know how to reduce this. I suppose you can. The hard way, I actually think, is to try to go and use the app to get decimals. Then you got to run through all of these. But it's probably easier to do this. You do have to reduce the square root of 72. So 36 is the largest perfect square that goes in. So square root of 36 times square root of 2. So 6 times the square root of 2. Then you have to divide 6 through all of that. You have to divide this by 6, this by 6, this by 6. And so it gives you negative 2 plus and minus the square root of 2. And there's a 1 on the bottom, which we don't include. Okay, find the points of intersection. I've shown you this many times. So the y's have to be the same. So that happens at 1, 4 and 4, 1. Okay, that page down and many to go. 23. So we want to figure out what the possibilities are. So a plus b is 8, and we know their product is 15. So it has to be 3 and 5 from that given. So is it 5 here and 3 here, or 3 here and 5 here? So you just have to do the check. So if you put a as 5 and 3, and you have 35 plus 6 is 41. And then if you have 3 and 5 the other way, then you have 21 plus 10, which is 31. So you just had to do the FOIL product those two different ways. Again, based on this description, the sum has to be 8, and I know the product of the first two has to be 15x squared. So you got to look at the outer product plus the inner for both of those possibilities. Another really good SAT style problem is 23. Which of the following is a solution? So you're going to take everything to one side. And so that's minus 10x and minus 12. And then just, I think the fastest thing to do is to definitely use the app on this. Graphing it would be hard because there's fraction possibilities. Okay, and then so negative 2/3 is the right one. Which of the following is equivalent? So we're adding like terms. So 1x squared y, this will be plus 1x squared, so 2x squared y. So we had two possibilities. Negative 3y squared minus negative 3, that makes plus 3y squared, so those drop. So C is going to be it because I can reason that I don't have a negative 6. The D is a common mistake answer. So you have to be careful to run that negative through, and it makes negative 3y squared plus 3y. So you have to be careful that this gets run through here and that you're doing that. Determine how many and what type. So the b squared minus 4ac is 0 here, meaning that there's one real solution, and that's where the vertex sits on the x-axis. If you look at that template of notes that I gave you for the very first quiz, it's where the x-intercept is the vertex point. 27. Okay, asking for the x value of this vertex. So negative b over 2 times a. That the x is the amount of rainfall, and then y is the number of mosquitoes. So just calculate the x value of the vertex, negative b over 2a. That gives you 2. Based on the graph, which of the following could be the equation? So 4 is the vertex, 4, negative 4. So there's a variety of ways you can do this. You can look at, I think probably the x-intercepts are the best. So 2 and 6, which one has x-intercepts of 2 and 6? So you have x minus 2 times x minus 6. That's the best thing to do. That has to hold. It doesn't look like there's any common factors. So x squared minus 8x plus 12. Look at these. That's going to give it away. All right, couple more pages to go. Problem 29. Which could have a negative leading coefficient? That means A. That means it opens down. And that's going to be B. Okay, FOIL product here. The negative 6 plus 3i minus 3i minus I, or plus I squared. So that I squared is negative 1. So we have a negative 7 when we combine these two, minus 1i. Determine one location where they're equal. Okay, so basically it has to be true in both. Or graph them and find on the table, your table is absolutely the most powerful thing on a graphing calculator, and so many students don't quite get that. At the higher math level, we'll say that. So, you can go all over the place, but 5, 0, you see those two y's are the same. It's not going to be anything in that direction. There might be something else somewhere, but 5, 0 is it. Write the function in vertex form. So you got to find the vertex. Negative 6, negative 11. Well, that's easy to figure out. It's D. Okay, so go get the vertex from your table, just like I showed on that last problem. And then you're trying to put it in this form. All right, perfect square trinomial. So you're dividing 8 by 2, that's 4. So it's x plus 4 squared if you're doing that part. And then you square that to get 16, and that's what you add to both sides. So they want to know now, what is that number that you're adding to both sides? 34, you got to crunch this out. Okay, so b squared minus 4ac is negative 324. And you can take that square root, but there's it's negative, so it's I, and then fill everything else in. So here it is, and so this would be, so they're dividing it out, 2/3 plus or minus I when you do the division. So in that quadratic formula unit, the ones we did that were imaginary and irrational. Okay, there's my little friend again, telling me that I'm droning on and on and on. In this form. So what this problem is asking you to do is to combine like terms and then match up, coefficients. So actually let me do that. So you would have negative 5x squared, and then 5x plus 4x would be 9x, and then negative 2 plus 2 would be 0. So this equals ax squared plus 2bx plus c. So what is a? Negative 5, that's not what we want. What is b? So 2b equals 9. B is 4.5. And then c would be 0. So those are two others. So a is negative 5 and c is 0 to know, depending on what the question would be. 36. Okay, set them equal. Take everything to one side and solve for t. Okay, or how many seconds will stuntmen fall before touching the airbag? So the 9, when will you be at a height of 9? It might be just as easy to look on a table again. It's very powerful, ladies and gentlemen. Very, very powerful. 73 minus 16x squared, and go to the table. There it is, height of 9, 2 seconds. And notice, I don't know if you can see the vertex. Oh, yeah. At a time of 0. Yep, that makes sense. So it was dropped kind of versus starting at a 0 point at 73 feet in the air. Okay, what is the value of B? So here's another SAT style. 0.36 lies on this graph. So 6 is Y and 3 is X. You put those in and you start manipulating and simplifying. So this is 27 minus 3B plus 12, and then 39 gets subtracted over, negative 33. So negative 33 equals negative 3B. B is 11. A good SAT style question. No doubt about it. All right, so here we have X-intercepts of 6 and 8. So those can go right here in the factored form as negative 6 and negative 8. And it opens down, so how do you know A is negative 1? There's no real good answer. You can substitute in points to see that it's true. So 7, 1 is the vertex. So when I put 7 in, I have to get 1. So this makes it 1, and this makes it negative 1. Well, I need another. So 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. You need a negative 1 here. If this was a positive 1, you would have a negative 1. So that you use the vertex point, substitute it in to figure out what you need here to make a y value of 1. The same thing's going to happen here. So when x is 7, that's 0 plus 1. That makes 1. I guess that wouldn't be a way. But the a's are the same. Once you figure it out here, you can transfer it up there. But it's a little glitchy to get A, and to get the total reasoning. But you got to use 7, 1 to do it. 39. Consider this. What value of m would result in being no remainder? Okay, so you do this. You go through this. This gets written down. So you don't know. This is what you don't know. Let me circle that. That's the question. And then you keep working through negative 7. So negative 14, you figure out all of this. You can figure out. So that has to be 14. So that adds to 0. So it's just a little bit of working backwards. And so complete this. So this has to be 3 because you drop it down. That has to make that 9 and 7. 21, so 24, 72. So you want to get 68. So this has to be negative 4 plus 72 makes 68. So 3, 9, and negative 4 are the solutions. Hey, we're done. And that's the first trimester. Again, don't get too worked up about the exam. It's meant to be your best effort. Another assignment, and it's not a grade killer or a grade sweller, to make it better.